Hello, on this next video, it is still on the data source and the work that goes behind doing a data collection for machine learning projects. On this video, I'll be explaining web crawlers and how they're used on my projects. I have this PowerPoint presentation here that I put some information together for you guys. So just an overview on the video. What I'll be talking about is web pages and server references. What is a URL? What's a hyperlinks and backlinks? And then also web crawlers that I use and how they work. So, what is a web page? Web page pretty much is a file that is written as a hypertext markup language. It is a standard markup language for all web pages. So it doesn't matter if you go to www.google.com or yahoo.com or to my websites. It's all going to be HTML. In an HTML document, it has some element tags or elements, and you can call them tags. And then within those tags, there are certain keywords. For example, this here tag identifies the start of HTML, and then you'll have an end tag /HTML. And then you have other tags that define, for example, you have header, the body of the contents of the web page, and then you have further breakdowns, the metadata. But you also have these red text here, enclosed by equals. Now these are your attributes. Some other folks might call it something different. And what we're focusing on for this particular video is these hyperlink references enclosed here. For example, this right here. These is where we will find our hyperlinks, and this data here on one of the web crawlers that I use will look for these, and they will use those links to crawl to other websites. So I might give it www.google, and Google might have links to other websites with that, and maybe some Yahoo links and then some Bing links, and the web crawler will crawl to those links as it's searching this document, as it's reading it. So you can see it here. They might be enclosing the text, and there might in some cases enclosed images. So if you want to know more information about HTML, there's Wikimedia, and there's also W3 Schools, which has good information on this. And you can go to those websites, and they'll talk in extended formats of what that HTML is. So the next thing is these URLs, or what we are called as links or hyperlinks. URL stands for Uniform Resource Locator, is the actual name, but it's an acronym in that a certain structure needs to apply for all applications that use this method can process this information and get the information it needs in order to get the resource that is anchored to. And here the schema It can be references in different protocols, for example, HTTP or HTTP secured or FTP or a mail to in case of email, or it could be a file, or it could be data, or it could be IRC, etc. etc. So whatever protocol you're using, that's what you define in the schema, followed by colon, followed by // forward slashes. And then if you have a specific user that you want to use, you use that. Otherwise, you just provide by default just a host. It could be a domain name like Google, Yahoo, Bing, or it could be an IP address that can go in here. By default, the browsers, when you're using the browsers, there's 2 ports by default that it'll use. The HTTP always will use port 80. The HTTPS uses port 443 or 443. So you don't necessarily have to provide it, but if you're running the server or somebody else is running the server in the internet and they have a different port, then of course you'll supply that colon and then that port. And then you have a path. Within this path, it could be an additional forward slashes or whatnots. By default, an index file is the home file to read. Otherwise, you give a specific path, and then if you want to give it some query informations, then you follow it with a question mark. The query, for example, if you want to know, anything in the websites, comma, name equals, and you give it a name, and then this will be an anchor and a fragmented. The only thing that didn't include in this here is the ampersand. The amper will allow you to add multiple queries and fragments for long. So that's how a URL is structured. A common URL, it seems like this: HTTPS : / the domain name / and then you have your path. More information on this link here talks about and goes in details the history of the URL, when it got started and stuff like that. This is very important, especially when you're crawling the internet, because you want references to, in my case here in my projects, is images and files, HTML files, so I can continue crawling. So, a hyperlink. The hyperlink is used to navigate within the documents or other documents or within that server, or you can go external to another server outside your system. Into that server you will have a hyperlink. Normally those are backlinks. You will have certain attributes. So here's an example here. This is an anchor, hyperlink reference to this HTTP : / W3 organizations, and then you give it a name for this, and then you end that tag anchor, right? So you'll give it the attributes. Will have the destinations. You also could provide a title, a target. The target attribute is pretty much if you were to click on this right here, will it open on the same page you're looking at, or you want it to open up a new window, and then you continue surfing and navigating from there. The class is normally references to Cascade style sheets. And the ID is if you want to specifically reference you want the browser to specifically reference this link to a specific ID, so you can recall that at a later time. So primarily what we're looking for is this and the description here, and of course the image. So how these links work. So let's assume that this is your home server. You created a web page and you have these red are your links, right? These blue ones or something, maybe an image, but let's say that you create a link here to another server, and let's say that this 3 pages here are all sitting in one server. So this is all one server, and this is an external, the home server here. So, and you referencing this link. So this link will reference to this HTML document, which has these links to an internal document within your server, and then this one has more links, and then you could provide links. So as you can see, these links can bounce between documents, and then you might have this other document on another server is referencing back. That will be a backlink to this right here. So this will be a hyperlink references, and then if you have somebody in your server that is referencing back to you, that's a backlink. And of course, this will be a different server here, and then this will be another server here. So these links, you can always go back here, and then this server can reference this server as well, right? So that's how these links work. You're always referencing back to another document, even though they're different servers. All right. So how does this work? All right, as mentioned before, we are going to use this orange here as my home server. This is well, not home server, but this is where I'm starting. This is my starting point, and I'm going to www.abc.com, and I see this link right here that references this right here that references to this other server. So this, let's say, is another server, and it's www.def.com. And I have a series of documents that I click on the links and so forth. Let me change the color to this here. No, let me use a different one that's not already being used. Okay. So then I come to this document here, and I find this guy right here, this hyperlink right here, and it refers to this server or this domain over here, which now I can go to www.ghi.com from this server to this server, and I'm reading this document, and I see this link here, and I'm going to change that color. This link right here, and now it references to www.jkl.com, and I'm reading this document here. And of course, let's assume that these blue boxes are images, these red orange boxes are links of maybe just text. So naturally, for my project, it'll download these images on top of the document that it's reading. It'll download these images as well. So one is I give it a starting point, right? I give it a starting point, which is www.abc.com. And the next thing I want to tell it is how far I want it to travel. So what do I mean how far to travel? So this is my starting point. So this is step one, and then this new domain here is step 2. Even though it has visually here has more web pages, it's still going within itself. As you can see, it references this page to itself, and then it goes right here, and then it goes back to itself. So this is only one step away from my home. And then this one from my home, this one here is 3 steps away. Okay? So then as it goes in here and it finds this link, it goes 3 steps here. So it's 3 steps. Now you may want to think it goes, well, from here to here, it will be 4 steps, but it's not. The reason why is because it's just reading here, it finds a link right here. So this one here is 2 steps away. Okay, so that's my mouse doing that. So I need to define the web crawlers, how deep I want it to go. So here, let's say my topic is about flags, right? Let's see if I can spell that. And then here it talks about the U.S. flag. And then here it might have references to the states, and this one is like Texas. So in here in Texas, and they might say, okay, now you're going to something else, right? Over here, it goes about AAA, and the AAA has a flag or something. I may not want that because I originally started my keyword search with wanting to know about flags, and as it's crawling further away from the domain and finding other links here, it's probably going further and further away from the topic of research. So you want to tell your web crawler when to stop, how deep. You may want just to go one deep or 2 deep or even 3 deeps, and so forth, right? So the other thing that I need to define is whether I am going to respect the robot.txt file. Every website should have a robot.txt file. So this robot.txt file kind of defines what web crawlers should crawl and what they shouldn't crawl. And these are rules set by the website owners, so the web crawlers don't go crawling the entire websites for no reason other than just to crawl it, right? So that's one of the biggest things that I need to define. Sometimes I do it and sometimes I don't, but majority of the time I do it because I don't want just garbage on my results, right? The other option that I have is whether I want to download everything. So what I mean by that is, do I want to download the HTML file that creates the web page? Do I want to create every single image? Do I want to download every file attached to it? For example, if it has video, maybe it has Word documents, Excel sheets, PDF files. Do I want to download all that? Do I want to download all the zip files? So I got to tell it what to download. Okay. So all that you have to take for account on the web crawler, what you want it to do, while you're actually crawling the web. All right, let me go here, clear this out. So in my project, I started by providing it some seeds. If you ever grew some crops and had a farm and you threw some seeds and the sprouts come out and the whole plant comes out, then you have a fruit that comes out. If you can visualize that, a web crawler is similar to that. What I did is I gave it some web addresses to start, and it was the web addresses for all the cities that I could think of that were within the state of Texas. I put all the hyperlinks here. And I went through the setting the options on this wind. I'm missing one. I think I missed this one right here. So let me go. I'm going to step back real quick. And this one's the web crawlers that I use, right? Is Spider dash plus. Spider was an HTTP search engine, and it used as part of the backend. It used a database, but it also did have web crawling capabilities, and then you could create your own search engine for your projects or for your own website. You can, if you had like content management and you didn't have a search function for it, you can use Spider to crawl your own site, and it'll provide a search engine so people can go search for information, and it'll go and do a keyword index for you and stuff like that. This is the one that I use personally because I do a lot of PHP coding. The other one that I use is this HT-Track website copier, which it does do is this is a Windows application. I think there's some flavors. I think it's Unix and Linux also. And I use the HT-Track. And what it allows you to do is you give it some websites, and what it does, it goes out, downloads the websites as it is, and makes it available for you to view it offline. So however the website is structured, it goes and copies it, and it has all the links for you, all the files that are required and stuff like that. And that's how that is used. We already went through this, and this is how when a HT-Track website copier looks like. And again, as I was saying, I gave it some seed URLs, and then I let it. I think I told it I went 3 deep. So these were all my home URLs, and as it crawled, it would go 3 deep and crawl all of those domains. So at the end, you can see here that you get some funky looking domain names from different service providers that they had subscribed to, and you're going to get a bunch of garbage, maybe stuff that you don't want, right? It even references to some IP addresses for whatever reasons they might have that links in there. So, but this website will go in there and download as much as it can and make a copy of it. And so this is the garbage that we have to go filter through when you use this method. So once you give it, you set your options, you configure it the way you want it, you tell it what files to download and respect all of the robot text files, even the site map as well. I didn't mention it here, but it does have, a lot of websites do have site maps. It'll download all these files for you and put it into your whatever you save it. You save your project, and you go and in my case, I used a photo gallery. Again, this is a Windows application, and what it does is it'll go through your folder and read all the files and creates the thumbnails for all the files that are images or have images in them, and provide this gallery for you. And the way I did it is I would go and scan through this gallery, and I think it was like 37 images that it downloaded. I will go down and then handpick all those that had flags in them. So all these images you see here on the right had either the Texas flag or the American flag. And this whole crawling for all these websites as it was going through, I had also bottlenecked this web crawler because if you let it go, it can eat up a lot of your bandwidth. And of course here, I use my internet for other stuff like, watching videos, movies, and all the other stuff. And I didn't want to get those things affected. So it took a while. It took 15 days to process all the URLs that I gave it, go 3 deep, and download all the images and get all that information. So at the end, I had 2,000 images with flags, and that was my data set. That's my seed data set beyond my other methods that I have. So in short, there are applications out there that you can use the web crawlers. Have a little understanding of web pages and how they're set up. Understand the URLs, the hyperlinks and backlinks. Have a little understanding of the web crawlers, and you can see how they work, and you can start getting your own data collections. Any questions, please comment on my blog. I normally do not address any concerns, questions in the discussions within YouTube. But do follow the link to my blog and have the discussions there. I just want to consolidate them because there might be different streaming services that I've put this video. But if any questions, also if you have any questions, put it over there on my blog. Thank you so much. There'll be other topics. I'll be going into more details as to, now that you know what a web crawler does, how to manage all this data. Remember, I bottleneck a lot of this. It took a while, but I bottlenecked. I have several projects running. 2 of them are already going, but I do use other servers and application servers that I'll be talking in the next videos, and hopefully that will help you in setting up your data collections efforts for your machine learning projects. So thank you so much for joining me. See you in the next video.